Can you stand up? And stretch. And give your hand to your neighbor and give some energy because you need some energy. So, good. Good, we can sort this out while the presentation is going on, but it's good to have energy, and this is something that you need to learn in the work environment. It's not about being yourself, you need to connect, you need to give hands, you need to look at the eyes, you need to be fresh every day, because people is not interested in your scientific argumentation all the time. They want personal relationships, they want connection. And after the connection is made, then you go on. Okay, while we have the presentation loading, I just want to tell you that I'm here to speak to you for about 20 minutes. And this is about, I thank you very much, Aalborg University. I'm a kind of a child of Aalborg. I took my PhD here. And it's much more than an honor to come back and share what has happened to me in the last 8 years or so. But all in all, what I have to say is that this has been a very personal journey for me. Having to sit back after 15 years that you have been through the PhD studies and then into the work market and have to think about what you have done and why you have done that. It's kind of a very personal experience. So some of the stuff that I'm going to show here, it's only my story. And then you can decide if you can take some of it for you, or it's just crap and throw it out and forget about it. So just for you to know that what you will see, hear me saying, it's much different sometimes than what they just said in a keynote speak or what the previous presenter said. But you will see also some connections. My story, I will start in 2001 when I came to Aalborg. I come from Brazil, from São Paulo, 15 million people. A lot of energy, a lot of people everywhere. Violence and poverty in all the streets and everything. And then I come to Aalborg. With 64 kilos of baggage and no idea of what I was going to do in the PhD because I came as a guest researcher to find out what I should do. And that's where it goes. So 2001, it starts the whole thing. Are we there? Yes, we are there. So, 2001 starts the emotional journey of creating anything that's great. All the possibilities were there. Of course, the PhD would be 3 years and everything would be perfect and I will be a laureate afterwards. And then you get in the dark swamp of despair that you have to try to cross the bridge without getting stuck there. So I think you know the truth. There is a lot of enjoyment in the PhD, but there is a lot of suffering as well. So, and this suffering, it makes you to be very humble at the beginning and say, please, give me the title and let me home, or something like this. And then I was fortunate enough to get a tenure track position. I got an assistant professorship position right in the end of my PhD. And then, of course, as a grad student, I'm going to save the world. My research is the best. And there is a lot of social investment that you put on it and so on. And then 3 years after being an assistant, I realized that I was more trying to produce statistics in papers than really doing something that had meaning for me. And this was a very shaking moment where I said, okay, forget it. I just want to try something else. Maybe I'm just tired. So let's see what is out there. The funny thing is, in the middle of this way, I was, because I couldn't get lecture time enough in classes, I could not supervise enough the amount that I should do. I got as a subject matter expert to the library of Aalborg University. So I was selecting books and journals and database and seeing what the students would like to see and what resources were needed from the library. And that was something like 10% of my job and just a side job. But interestingly enough, Novo Nordisk had a library. and they need a specialist that could do subject matter selection to the library of Aalborg, of Novo Nordisk. And it was a library of 30 people. And the average timing job there was 20 years or something like this. And I was the only PhD starting and the only one that didn't speak Danish. But they need somebody that could shake the bag, could move the thing on, could transform finding information into processing information, into getting data into meaning. And that's what PhDs are all about. It's getting data and making meaning out of it. And I helped medical affairs, medical and science development, do this kind of overviews, for example. What are the facts and figures of hemophilia, of diabetes? What is out there in the edge of the research of diabetes? And the thing that I've noticed, that they said, oh, thank God, now we can talk the same language. You can take an article and you can process. You can look from the abstract and already have a feel of what is this study about. Is it a good study? Is it a good design? Is it just a conference article? So I could have this very intense conversation with researchers that were really doing the job. But you have to remember that a research in a big company, at least, is not a 10 people group. It's a 500 people group. And you have to take yourself the humility of saying, I'm going to take care of only this tiny bit that is finding the information in the literature and do my best to get this information so that the group can benefit from it. It's more of taking this approach of, I'm not the responsible for everything. I'm only responsible for the very, very small thing that in the end, it will make the difference to the team. And after 8 years at the after 6 years at the Aalborg, the Novo Nordisk library, we actually managed, or I'm proud to say that I was one of the drivers to bring the Novo Nordisk library to something that now is called global information and analysis. So, no library anymore. Now, you are not the ones that are responsible in collecting data, but you are the ones that are synthesizing information and knowledge so that you can make decisions out of it. And this is what you can do as a PhD. You can come to a library, it's hopeless, you don't have anything to do, but your drive can make this happen. But then, of course, I always get homesick. There is no shame in feeling homesick. It means that you come from a happy place. And I always missed Aalborg University very much. And I was always thinking, oh, I just want to get home to my old lab and my colleagues and not wearing fancy clothes and not being nice with people every day and being able to be myself. But one way that I got toward it, and now it's some reflections, because now it's 6 years, 5 years, 6 years that I'm doing this kind, and it's a very uphill. You put a lot of energy, and you are trying to find yourself. As they just said before, you don't have an idea of complexity, so you are trying to get this complexity into you. So how you get back to your roots? Well, I always kept connection with my fellow mates at the university. I got into censor work, so I could always read the work that was going on here. I could be referee in different journals. So I was this hidden referees that reject your papers all the time. I was one of those. So there are ways that you leave the university, but you can always keep the 1 foot back so that you have this feel that you can do some difference. And then it went like that. I did some censorships. But let's reflect a little bit. What is a PhD then? Why, you have questioned several times, why do they want to hire you and not a master? Basically because the PhDs are quite of a good deal. A master with 7 years experience corresponds to a PhD in the work market today, roughly. So if you take a master and put 7 years of experience, it will be equivalent to you that has 3 years of study. And why is that? Because you have suffered the hell to get through, and you have been trained to be good at what you do. So in reality, it's a very good jump that you do. But there are some problems. I love Gilbert. So this guy was saying, I have no real world experience and I'm incompetent at everything. But unlike any of you, I have a PhD, and that means that you have to take me seriously. And that was me. Exactly like that when I came into the work environment. And the guy said, it's pretending aloud, totally. It all looks the same to me. So the message is, you are gonna look like an ET, especially if you are landing into a group of non-PhDs. You are the special one, the one that people don't understand, or you are very arrogant and this kind of thing. And this is natural. And you are, I think by hearing this now, I've never had this opportunity. You are already one step ahead. You are aware of that. I wasn't. I was just the joker in the department. And then there are some interesting stuff that happens that you think because you have a PhD, you are from a superior human class, and that you are entitled, for example, for a senior position after only 1 year at the job. I have a PhD, so I should be not a scientific specialist, but a senior scientific specialist. But the reality is not exactly that. You need to develop these extra skills that Vibeke was talking about, these side dishes, because it's not only about what you know as a scientist, it's something else. And then there is another thing. They will not give you a seniorship, and they will not give you a team to lead either, unless you have the natural skill of being a leader. But you have to remember one thing. You need to learn how to manage your boss. You need to be the leader of yourself and of your boss, because PhDs, basically, they are pain in the ass. They want too much all the time. They want challenge all the time. They are never settled. And I had really nice managers, 3 or 4 of them, and they said all the time, you are pain. You get a task, you solve, and then you want more, and then it never stops. And then at some point, I got kind of bored, and I said, okay, forget it. I will try to do something else. So instead of leaving the job and come back to the university, I said, okay, I'm feeling, because I've applied for seniorship positions, I've applied for team leader positions and this kind of things, but I was not mature enough. And they would say to me, you have a great set of skills, you are not experienced. So I've convinced one of my managers to pay me a business degree then. I said, okay, give me a development activity that I can learn that I can do that. So I've started a master that's called Leadership Innovation Complex Systems, and I can tell you, this was one of the best decisions that I've made. I've complemented my profile as a PhD with some more humanistic. And on top of that, I understand what innovation is really about. We talk about innovation all the time, and I had this idea of innovation. But innovation is when you take a great idea to make money, to turn into profit. Innovation is not just a great idea in the paper that will generate a couple of publications. You need to have this leap. The idea has to turn into profit. And this is something that I didn't realize before I did this course. So this master, 2 years where I learned stakeholder relationship, project management, this kind of stuff. I'm not saying that I'm perfect on that now, but if you are aware that you are going to use these skills at some point in life, maybe it would be a good idea for you to be aware and start looking at these things right now, if your plan is not staying at the university. Or even if you stay at the university, because the university, they are turning into professional environments. They are professional environments, but they are turning into enterprise-like places. And there is where you learn that that the innovation things, the innovation phases, where you have gates that it's not only come and say, I have a very great idea. Okay, you have a very great idea. How much of the population can buy your idea? How much it costs to produce? How long it will be in the market? What are the risks to the users? What are the benefits? What is the legal environment? Do you have to regulate that? For example, I work in medical device environment. Regulation is everything. If you cannot get approval from the authorities, you cannot sell. You cannot get reimbursement. So it's a whole world that opens before your eyes, where when we think innovation at the university, and I did it myself, innovation is about creating something great. But then you have to take the reality. That is turned into profit. And there's where I learned something about that. But then doing this master, I realized that I like very much to write, and I got a trauma during the university, during the PhD. I was totally burned out, so I didn't want to write anymore. And then it took like 6 to 7 years for me to realize that I really like to write. And then I, by the end of the master, I said to my manager, thank you very much. You paid me 2 years of a development course, and now I'm saying goodbye, because this is not my place anymore. I need something else. And then I turned into a medical writer. And this is the medical writing cycle of pharmaceutical industry. Still in Novo Nordisk, I changed departments. And, and each cell here, it's a kind of document that you have to generate in order to approve a drug. And this takes 8 years. And sometimes you take something like this pediatric investigational plan, and you are working with that for 8 years. Or you are working with the end here, where you have to report on the safety of your product. And this is where I was working for 1.5 years. But then I realized that it was too different of an animal to write a medical writing in a pharma company to a medical writing scientifically. There, in the science, you are much freer, and you have 5 reviewers, and then you have, here you write a document of 80 pages, and it's revised by 40 people, and you have something like 500 comments to a document of 80 pages. And you have to use all these skills of project management and the stakeholder management and connection in order to get your document through. You see? Where it just not enough to get the technical. You need to get the human behind it. And then for sure, again, I got bored. Writing and trying to solve comments and everything, and my life was like, okay, it's going to be my life writing 80 pages and solving 400 comments every single time that I produce a document. Then after 1.5 years of doing medical writing, which I enjoyed very much in the end, I discovered that I was not stupid writing after all. You get much more, and this is the funny thing of work in the industry, is that when you do it right, you get much more reward, and you get much more recognition and feedback. Great, you did really good. In the universe, okay, you publish a paper, move on, publish another paper, and you don't get this thrill. But here you get. But I got bored anyway. And I got bored and applied to Coloplast. And it sounds like the hero's quest, but I'm really happy with my job right now. These are I've just put you the mission and values of Coloplast. Coloplast, basically, they work with intimate care. That's catheters to the ureter of patients that cannot pee. That is bags to collect the feces of people that had ostomy. That is wound care. That's all the intimate parts that people don't want to talk about. It's difficult to test. And it's people that's suffering and struggling with their life because they have incontinence. They cannot pee, or they pee too much, or they cannot poo, or they poo too much, or too little. And you have to find ways of easing the life of these people in a very scientific way, because you also have to show that there is a benefit. There's not only risks that you put the patient on. And I put this to you because I think I'm kind of there, and I will not be there in 2 years, I'm sure. Because I will get bored again, and that's life, and you will get bored. But right now, I think if you can do something that you like, and you find a purpose on it, and you can get the money for this, then you are in your sweet spot. And maybe that's your mission, it's find your sweet spot. What you can do and like to do, and you get money for it. And just to show why I think this is my sweet spot right now, it's that I have to maintain clinical documentation. I have to go to a project, they have a bright idea, and I have to help market and market access and reimbursement and the regulatory and everything, and the patients most importantly, and say, do this proposal brings benefit to the user? Yes. Is there a risk? Yes. So what is the benefit and what is the risk? That is a clinical evaluation. And you have to find scientific background to the project all the time and decide if you have to test, if you had to do preclinical tests, if you have to, all sorts of ways. Do you need to do bench models, preclinical models and everything? And then you have to talk to authorities. Then you have to find out what is Germany wants to know in scientific terms from your product so that the authorities will pay for it, so that the users can benefit from your product. So it's a lot of stuff. I don't have a single day that I plan that I do, in the end of the day, do everything that I've planned in the start of the day. Because it's very dynamic, there are things coming from all the places. And just to show you, so here I could combine the PhD with my library thing, with the transforming information into knowledge, into managing, not people, but managing yourself and managing all the people that is around you. Because managing is not just about telling people what they have to do. It's about to bring them together with you so that you can do one thing all together. The innovation part and lots of writing. I'm still writing, but it's in a very different environment. And the world is becoming more and more regulated, and we all know that. And as for from 1 month from now, there will be a new medical device regulation coming out from the European Union, and that it's a golden opportunity for PhDs, for masters, for everyone, because now you need much more than ever to show the benefit of your drug and the benefit of your product, and not only drug, not only medical device. There are electrical cars coming down there that they will have a lot of different safety discussions. There are a lot of regulations. So, and what do they need for this regulation to happen and for your products to comply is that they need thinkers. They need people like you that can take a matter and can make a rational and present and be convincing and sell your product in a responsible way. And the road is it's long. I have been 8 years out of the university. I still have plans to come back one day to tell people what they can do outside, to prepare them to what they can do. I couldn't care less about the scientific content that I've learned in the PhD right now. I'm more worried that with this knowledge that you have, that somebody else can take care of, how can we complement that so that you are a good professional in the market? That's what I would like to do, coming back to the university at some point. And now we are going into pension at the 70s. In 10 years, maybe at the 80s, our life expectancy is increasing. So don't despair. You have plenty of time. And I have a plenty of time in the market too. And you have to take care of your peers. You have to keep connections because the market is very small and you are going to meet your peers at some point and you're going to be making new connections. It's very important to maintain that and to be comfortable with the thing that this is not going to be the job of your life. after the first 4 or 5 years, you're going to change jobs, or even earlier than that. And you should, because you cannot get institutionalized it. And that's a good thing. So remember that what you are trying to do here is just to find a wormhole to the next 5 years. And then you find out about. And then you can come back to the university again and try to find out. So don't think that this is going to be your life-changer experience or something like this. Be patient with yourself. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Omar. I think we have time for a question or two. Yeah. Should have put on some different shoes.
My name is Tobias, and I'm a PhD student here in Aalborg. You said that there was equivalence between a master's student with 7 years of experience and then a newly educated PhD. Could you elaborate on that and on which metrics?
Yeah, this is actually, it was surprising to me, but when I applied to my job, it was exactly that, a master with 7 years experience. And then if you go in the career programs of companies, and I've seen the ones in Novo Nordisk and the ones in Coloplast, they measure that. They measure what is the equivalent of experience to a PhD or to a master. There is the same relationship between a bachelor and a master. And I think it's called the IPE system, International Professional. It's a classification system that they use across different companies. Right now I think I'm IPE 57 or something like this. And there is a whole range of classes. So, yeah.
One more question?
I think we have something here.
Hi, I'm Pauline from Aarhus University. The question that I have relates a little bit more specifically to the pharmaceutical industry, because I'm actually trying to do the same thing as you did. I'm trying to step out of academia. I am actually a postdoc. But whenever I see a job advertisement, it always states that you need to have knowledge of the industrial processes within the pharmaceutical industry or within the food regulations or all that sort of stuff. So how do you tackle that?
Yeah, as I said, it's a wormhole. I wouldn't never get a job at Novo Nordisk if I didn't accept the fact that I would become a librarian at first. I was sitting in a desk booth one evening, one afternoon a month, servicing people, getting books back, and sometimes you need to get to the level where I say, okay, I don't have all this. So you take one lower, but then you know that you have all the equipment to jumpstart this and to jump to another place, because the thing is also that you need to learn the vocabulary of the pharmaceutical industry, of the medical device industry. So maybe you are looking at the profile that you don't have, and try to look at the profile that you have. Maybe an assistant position, maybe something. It will pay less, yes. Much less than a PhD scholarship, no. Are you going to have an evening? Yes. With a PhD? No. So take the things that maybe will do. Give a vacation to yourself. Give you the time to take a lower step, a lower position, and then make the jump. Because then you get the skills and you start connecting people. And it's like a trail. You meet a person that has a connection to this one, and then you go to this person. I'm interested to this job, do you want? And after the people, they know you as a person, they are willing to take the risk to give you the chance of becoming the specialist that you want to. And I know that in Novo Nordisk, for example, they have a lot of QA positions right now, but you need to accept to live in, what's the name of, Aalborg? Yeah. You need to accept that. And there is this kind of thing. I would love to have stayed in Aalborg. I love the city here. but I need to go to Copenhagen in order to get something going. So we need to make choices, and you will never, ever find a perfect job. That's for sure. Yeah.
I find interesting about the selling of idea. That is one of the interesting, basically how to sell an idea.
Yeah, you have to sell yourself at first, and you have to get into. You have to get into career fairs, and you need to get into LinkedIn, and not only scan through names, but go into the post and try to read it through, and try to sell the idea with the vocabulary that they have. Because it's not like the employer, they couldn't care less if you did quantum physics. They will not understand what you are talking about. They want to understand what they understand coming from you with their vocabulary. So it's the selling idea is actually to whom you are selling the idea, with which words you are selling it. I'm gonna be in the hall in this break, and you are welcome to ask me anything you want to.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.